Don't sell yourself short in that sense. Give yourself that full experience. Many people choose to have a micro wedding.
Hi, I'm John from DGP Wedding Films, and welcome to Say Yes to the Best, where we talk to the best wedding pros to give you wedding planning advice. Subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Instagram. We have new content out all the time to help you with your wedding planning. Today I'm with Jenn of JKo Beauty. How you doing, Jen?
Hi, John. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to have you back on the show. Today we were going to talk a little bit about makeup and how COVID-19 has affected that. You know, as I think last time you were on, I mentioned I'm a guy, so I know very little about makeup. And with the changes that come along with COVID-19, I think there are certain aspects of it that couples and other people can kind of wrap their heads around, like, okay, I'm having 25 people instead of 250 people, so I have to spend less on catering. There's just not as much food needed. But the stuff that you do, your work, I don't know that it's as one-to-one that there's a difference. So I was hoping that you could maybe kind of explain how you are changing what you do because of COVID-19 and how that's affected you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, great point. As I would say, whether you have a micro wedding or you have a 200-person wedding, you still want to look your best. So in a lot of ways, it doesn't change. But there are changes. Right now, some of the things that we're very aware of, like very specific to makeup in COVID, are things like the fact that your makeup artist is going to be in very close proximity to you. Both of you face to face, very close to one another. So things like wearing masks. Personally, I have a mask that I wear. I do not enter the building without my mask already on, and I do not remove my mask until I've left the building. We don't want to just put something over our face. It's there to protect us. So I'm very mindful of the masks that I wear and that they are properly fitted, that they're, enough layers and, all of that good stuff. In addition, I also have a shield that I wear. It's, protection for both myself and for whoever's in my chair. And so as I talk to my clients, and really kind of explain that, while COVID is new, there are so many sorts of bacterial infections, viruses. There are many things that have been around for a long time that as a licensed professional, as I would say, before you get to the fun part in school, these are the things that you have to learn. You have to learn how to identify them, and you need to learn how to, continue to work so that you're never cross-contaminating anything within your kit. You don't cross-contaminate onto, obviously another individual, but as well, like onto the same person. So there's a lot of things these days that I'm really happy to see the conversation really sort of push forward and a lot of light being brought to this topic. As a licensed professional, there are a lot of things that personally I've always done. Things like not double dipping. Mascara is a really good example. I buy a tube of mascara, and the wand that comes with it is simply a cap. The only thing that ever goes into it that comes out and goes on to another individual is a disposable wand. Once that disposable goes in and it comes out, it never goes back in. So it's little things like that. Something a little bit different that I'm currently doing is all of my brushes. Now, I never use the same brush on two people in one setting. Everything is thoroughly cleaned and sanitized in between clients. So I'm actually pre-dividing all of my brushes into multiple sets and putting them into a fresh Ziploc bag. So that way, when I arrive, if I have 5 faces to do, there are 5 bags plus what I label extra, just in case I have to dig in and get something extra. I mean, you never know, you might drop a brush or something. It happens. When I show up for my couple's big day, then I feel very confident that I'm doing everything I can to protect each individual that I'm working with.
What has been the biggest challenge for you kind of getting back into things after the shutdowns and now with everything reopening?
It's been a wacky year, as we all know. So I always say flexibility in life is really important. But with weddings, it's always really important to be flexible. There are so many things that could potentially happen that we didn't plan on. It could be weather, it could be something really, it could be something really minor and simple. But it's always sort of, if you talk to any planner, they'll tell you like, there's not just a plan B. There's always, even if you don't realize it, they have a whole list of things. And so, this year, I would say, one of those things is kind of shifting our gears to be really flexible. So, for instance, wrapping up details for timeline, location, the number of people, really just kind of how the day is going to look for makeup is something that in the past we would start that conversation earlier on and really just kind of button up those details so that we're not waiting to the last minute feeling like we're adding stress. However, this year, because so many things have been changing sort of on the fly, in many instances, we're waiting a little bit closer to the date to see where we are. Has the location changed? What does that look like? In many instances, our getting ready location has changed. The venue has even changed. So the trial that we've done, we may even be adjusting the look a little bit to, now proceed with a different setting, a different time of year. So if I was going to use one word, it would be flexibility.
So what are the biggest changes that a bride and her family and friends are going to experience with all the new restrictions and all the new safety practices compared to what they might have expected pre-COVID?
So outside of the obvious, which, would be something like, let's just say masks. Outside of the obvious, I think that one of the biggest things is space. And, considering, we use the phrase social distancing, but it's really about creating space between individuals and, and sort of taking into consideration that space as well. So for instance, if there's 2 makeup artists and 2 hairstylists, it'd be really important to have, we're looking for 6 feet between each artist. As I would recommend having hair and makeup even further apart. We're still learning, ways that it's spread and all of those things. So we don't want to take any chances. So if indeed your hairstylist is going to be doing a blowout or just, needs to use a hairdryer, we want to make sure that they're not just a couple of feet away from, someone who's doing makeup and could be potentially, sort of blowing and directing that air onto a makeup station. So as much as I love my hairstylist friends and I want to be close, that's one of the suggestions that I've been making is that we are actually further apart for that reason, but also being mindful of that social distancing. So while sometimes when one individual is in the makeup chair, it would have been fun and normal to have other people around and talking and hanging out, maybe, having drinks. This is not what we're doing these days. It's, one person is in the chair, and while that person's in the chair, it's really their one-on-one time. No food or drinks in the chair, which if you've sat in my chair before, you know that I really don't like food and drinks in my chair anyway, because let me tell you, accidents happen. And there's nothing like having your mimosa spilled all over.
What has been the hardest thing that you've seen for your couples with all of the changes?
Gosh, the hardest thing. I think that the hardest thing really is, in so many instances, couples have, in their mind, they have visualized their big day. And especially for the couples who more so closer to their wedding date have had to really shift gears. To have your heart set on your day looking a particular way. And, and also, like, let's be honest, if you've had a countdown and you were, however many days away from your big day and things have changed, that's hard. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see this happen with couples, to be there along the way with the conversation and kind of work through details. It's heartbreaking. My heart goes out to couples in 2020 and even into 2021 as things will look different. With that being said, I do think it's really important that we always, find the good in something. In many ways, couples are, I feel like at first, maybe they were a little like, whoa, like everything's on hold and let's wait and see what happens. And, now that we've been dealing with this for a few months, I'm seeing a lot more of the, almost like the two-part, a small micro wedding today, this year, whatever that day may be, and then planning for a large party, whether it be a 1-year anniversary party or, just kind of like a big blow up party, sometime next year in the future. And so it is really, it's neat to see couples, very positively, sort of pivoting, as they say, and, moving forward as it seems best for them.
So you mentioned, micro weddings, and as I talked about at the top, I think for some vendors that becomes very apparent, but what does a micro wedding look like for you compared to a more typical wedding?
It's really not different. In many ways, it's really not different. The packing everything up and, showing up on location and everything that I'm bringing in, I mean, that's all the same. Whether you have one individual or 10 people and there's 2 artists, I'm seeing, either direction with micro weddings. And we see that as well with, what we would consider to be a standard size wedding. Weddings are, to be honest, they're very unique to each couple. So I would say that as far as makeup goes, there's really not a whole lot that's different. As I would say, on your wedding day, you still want to look your best and you want to look like yourself. With that being said, there's a lot to consider. So, for instance, I mentioned that, many couples are having a micro wedding or a small ceremony in 2020 and are planning for a larger party next year in 2021. And with that being said, your gown that you've purchased for your big day is probably what you're going to wear. Let's just say in this particular instance, it's what you're going to wear next year. So maybe you've chosen something a little bit, maybe a little bit more casual. And it's like casual is probably not a good word, but something not quite as formal, let's say. And you would then have probably a second look for your makeup that would coordinate with your setting, coordinate with whatever it is that you're wearing. Both can be really beautiful looks that you look like yourself and feel your best in, but can be, maybe it's just a difference in lashes. Maybe it's a slight intensity in the eye makeup. There are things that we can adjust as makeup artists to best suit and accommodate the setting that you're in, whether it's today or next year. So I would say that would be one thing that would be different is, ultimately possibly having 2 different looks. Also, if you've had a trial already, and, in many instances, I did a trial with my brides, before all of this happened, and we determined a look. And, now we are moving forward with a new location. In some instances, it's even a different season. So we're making adjustments to the look. If we were to have a May wedding and it's now going to be in December, what was once more of that spring, summer will become a little bit more of that glamorous, polished style of a winter wedding. So it's kind of fun. If you look at it from a positive perspective, it's kind of fun if you look at it as, just another variation.
With micro weddings, obviously there's a lot of different scales. Some people are going to venues, some people are doing it in their backyard. Why do you think that it is still valuable for couples to invest in their makeup for their wedding day?
Wow, that's a great question. So I would say that it's your wedding day. And, however that looks, it's a day that you're going to have a lot of photos. You are going to have videos. And you're going to look back at that day. And let's be honest, it's going to be one of the most significant days in your life. I feel like these days, after all that we've been through and all that we're going through, it's almost like we appreciate to be able to be with our closest family and friends, our loved ones, and to celebrate. I feel like it's almost like it's even more of a blessing and even more special, after what we've been through and what we're going through. So I do feel like, treating this day as significant as what it is, of course you want to look and you want to feel your best. And again, going back to those moments that are captured, on camera and in your videos, don't sell yourself short in that sense. Give yourself that full experience. Many people choose to have a micro wedding. My husband and I, we chose to have a micro wedding when we got married, and we had our own reasoning that we wanted to do that. But, we wanted people to be really well fed, and we wanted plenty to drink. And, having something, even if it is, in your mom and dad's backyard or, at your own home or whatever it may be, it doesn't change the significance of the meaning of the day. And so, when we think back to that day and, we think of it with just so much, it's it kind of fills your heart. And so, to slight yourself in any way, I just would say, don't do that. Whatever it is, even if you had originally hoped and planned for, a 300-person wedding, and maybe you're still going to do that next year or in the future. That's wonderful. That's what you wanted. And, you should have that. But if you were choosing to do something that is small, sooner, because you want to be married, you want to get married to your significant other, the person you love the most. I just don't think that you should sell yourself short and with anything. Maybe you have less flowers. Maybe your lashes aren't as dramatic, but I do believe that you should treat yourself to all of those things. And I really do believe that one day you will look back. And even if you do this in two parts, the day that you get married, no matter how small that it is, the significance will never, that doesn't change the significance of the meaning. So you should have what you want.
Absolutely. And what you want should probably be to have Jenn at your wedding, making you look amazing. Thank you, Jenn, so much for being a part of the show again.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a pleasure.
Jenn from JKo Beauty, all of her information is going to be below. You cannot do better for your wedding day. Thank you again for watching Say Yes to the Best. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube. We're always putting out content to help you navigate wedding planning. Thanks again, and happy planning.
Nicole, you have picked me up when I've been down more times than I can count. You have held me when I've cried. You have saved my life. I would not be here today if it wasn't for you. You are my guardian angel. I am forever grateful.